my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hey, Jesse Blaze Snider here, the Coolest Geek Alive. How are you guys doing? I'm doing great. Care Bear stare out to you all. I hope that life is going wonderfully for you. Life is good for me over here. I got to go to the toy fair last week. I talked about that. And this week it's been like, talking about all the stuff that we learned from Toy Fair and talking about doing toy stuff with Digger, which is super fun over here. I'm having to remind myself, as a 42-year-old man that, like, I love toys and I always wanted to make toys. And now I'm working with somebody who that's what they do. And, meanwhile, we're still working on our stuff. We're working on a magazine right now, Sugar and Bones magazine, which is basically like a heavy metal magazine, but with some more magazine elements. It's a magazine for creative people, and I'm really excited about it. You can find it on Kickstarter right now, Sugar and Bones. You can't find, like, the whole page isn't up, but you can sign up for notifications. You can also sign up for notifications if you just go to bldsts.com, blacklightdistrictstudios.com. That's bldsts.com, and you can sign up for notifications for all of the books that we're doing. We did King of Kings, and we did Fucking for Our Future. My buddy Aaron that just did Kneel Before Doomface, he had a lot of success with that. He's going to have one of his characters appearing in the magazine that we're doing. We're all working on this, all me and my buddies. I'm getting my buddy Hugh Lords involved in some of the stuff we're doing. I just had him out today to work out with me and Digger and meet Digger. That was really fun. Always fun when you can introduce good friends to good friends, and they like each other too, and then you got a bigger crew of people who adore each other. So yeah, man, life is really good. I'm like in the early stages of working on a television show that I developed years ago from my mother, which is really cool. Working on that, and the coolest thing that we got going on is we've got a comic convention that is getting locked down. There's a one-day con, the Appalachian Ultra Con. It's on June 14th, and Jesse Blaze is going to be going down there to play some music. It's basically I was invited to put on a show and do a meet and greet and and vend with my publishing company. So music and comics all in one, and I'm bringing Dilf USA down as well. This guy, he was a fan of my stuff, but didn't know about the new band, and so Dilf's coming too, and we're putting on a big show at the end of this one day convention. And I tell you what, the way the guy's doing the convention is really good, really right. He's trying to make it economical for people so that they can do a lot and see a lot and, come home with a lot of stuff and a lot of stories and be happy that they went. And it's a one-day show on a Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping it'll be the type of thing that a lot of people will fly in for and come hang out with us because, this is the first time we're going to do this. We're working on maybe getting some blow-up booths for our booths that's going to be there. We're going to have a geek culture information booth. This is the plan, so I got to get all this shit together. But I'm really excited. This show is going to be really cool. Blacklight District Studios, my publishing company, is going to be there, in force and, selling some copies of our books. And but also just we'll have a booth right next to ours providing a service to the convention as a geek culture information booth. So, there's no stupid questions. How do I get started with Spider-Man? Like whatever you might want to know. How do I join the cosplay contest? We're basically just going to be, I feel like so often people feel like outsiders in like different cultures, and they don't know how to make their way. And, so often people like this will get called posers and whatnot because they don't really know. But sometimes it's intimidating information and the wealth of information that other people seem to have, and people can get really like tripped up on that. So want to make it easy for people to get into this world. These hobbies, toys, and comic books. It's the world of craftspeople, artists who get up every day and make things with their hands. It's just like the fucking coolest place to be, man. I consider it such an honor that I get to be a writer of comic books, creating scripts for these wonderful people to go and bring to life. And I can't tell you how many times some script that I wrote, which I do a good job on my scripts, I make sure they're good, but man, some artists just brought it to life in ways that I hadn't imagined in my head. First time, my first professional work that I ever did was for Marvel for Marvel Comics. And it was a Marvel Comics Presents story for, a Deadpool story for Marvel Comics Presents. And my artist, it was his first work at Marvel ever. Nowadays, he's a really big name. His name's Marco Cicchetto. He's awesome. Marco's, execution of my Deadpool story elevated it to high heaven. Because honestly, I had been a little disappointed because I had written something that was very, I don't know what to say. I was batting for the fences. I was really trying to impress the editors with my skill as a writer. And my first story that I submitted was loosely a Spider-Man story. It was a little bit more about one of his villains and a little bit more about just a character that I was inventing to interact with the villain and ultimately then the villain interact with Spider-Man in the end. I'll tell you the story real quick. The shortest story was I had written a short story as a kid that I really thought was a really strong one called Bottom Dollar. And it was about somebody trying to buy a drink with one of those dollar bills that you always see pasted up on the walls at establishments, restaurants, delis, whatever. It's like, this is the first $20 bill that we were given from our first sale, from our first customer, and we saved it. So he was spending the first sale dollar, the one that he saved. He had to spend it. And I just thought that was like sort of a tragic scenario. And I pieced it together in this really cool way where I had the Vulture, and you didn't know it was the Vulture, and he overhears the story, and he's just in a trench coat, and he ends up leaving this big duffel bag filled with money. And just recently, a few months earlier in the comics, there was a miniseries called Identity Disc, and the Vulture had a granddaughter, I think, who had cancer or something like that, and he was pulling a big job because he needed money for like some life-saving treatment for this daughter. And it was showing this side of the Vulture that people didn't know he had. Well, my editor didn't read the that Identity Disc thing, and this goodwill that the Vulture didn't make any sense to him. And the story was really great, it wrapped up like he leaves the money, the guy goes to chase him outside, he can't find him, he's like, oh my goodness, thank you. The guy's whole story was that he was an immigrant and he had a business in America, and basically his son got hurt really bad by a local street gang after he defended an innocent person, and the hospital bills became too much, and they ended up actually going back to their country, sort of like just complete reversal of the American dream, and he was trying to figure out how he was going to get himself back now. And now this solves his whole problem. He can open a restaurant again, money solves the problem kind of thing. And and you see a silhouette of an angel, which is really the Vulture. And then some dialogue starts on the next page, and you go down through New York City, and eventually on the last turn page, you see that Spider-Man's got the Vulture upside down in one of those little cocoons. And he's talking to him, and he's like, I said, I'm going to give you one last chance. Tell me, where's the money? And Vulture says, I told you, I gave it away. And Spider-Man just punches him in the face, and is like a tooth. He loses a tooth on the last page. And there was some sort of no good deed sort of ending to it. So it was like a heartfelt story, something that I was really trying to show I could write. I could write characters. I could write a new character and make you fall in love with him, and then I could tie it into this world in cool ways. But that when that got rejected, I sort of almost a little bit angrily wrote this antithesis thing. Because Deadpool was one of my favorite characters, and I really genuinely loved Deadpool. And there was a lot of things that I knew I could do with him. And seeing as he didn't bite on me trying to show him that I could win an Oscar, I was like, all right, I'm just going to fucking make him laugh. I'm just going to write something really wonderfully absurd. And the story that got picked is this Deadpool story that basically he's he's killing somebody. He's sneaking in to kill somebody, and his cell phone goes off, and it wakes the guy up, and then the guy calls his bodyguards, and now he's fighting bodyguards because the cell phone went off, and he's yelling at Weasel, who called him, because he's like interrupting him. He knew that he was in the middle of killing somebody, and it's his fault, kind of thing. And when he cuts the guy's head off, he finally gets on the phone with Weasel, and he's like, "So what is it that you wanted?" And the guys and Weasel says, "They said they'll quadruple your money if you bring him back alive." And the last line is, "You got any duct tape?" Now, this thing was silly as can be. And, little references to the Ninja Turtles and stuff. It was very fun and funny. And I wasn't necessarily picturing it being taken particularly seriously. But holy shit, man. If you see Marco Cicchetto's artwork on the pages for my Deadpool short, you'd have to get a hold of about it's probably been collected somewhere at this point. But and there's a PDF a link to PDFs that I keep giving to people. If anybody writes me at jesseblaze@jessesnider.com, I will send you the PDF link. The link to all the PDFs that I have on this stuff, and I have a PDF of this. It's a black and white one, but it's just so elevated. Marco just like made it real, and it's so cool. It's the amount of times that's happened to me of just like, Jason Craig, who did my Evil Ernie book that I did for Dynamite. I created the main bad guy is Ernie's dad, Buford King. And I created this motherfucker, and I really was like proud of myself. Like, his dialogue just came out of my face really easy. I just knew who he was, and I could write him really good. And I loved writing him. He was just a piece of garbage who just was just smart enough to be entertainingly sadistic. And holy shit, when I fucking started to see Jason Craig's renderings of this guy, I was like, shit, I think he's gonna like haunt me in my dreams. Like, legit, no joke. I go check out like some of the pictures of Buford King, some of the close-ups. Jason knows this guy. I don't know who this guy is that Jason's drawing, but like he's in Jason's heart. He's evil. But this medium is just the greatest fucking medium there is, and I want everybody to be able to get into comics and geek culture, whether it's novels. All the greatest things in fucking life, they start as books or comic books or toys, all the things that are visually more interesting than just a bunch of people walking around talking to each other, doing bullshit. I love color, man. I love color, and I love shapes, and I love ideas being properly pressed up against each other, and morality. That's one of the things cool about comic books, and where the Marvel universe got it right and DC hasn't gotten it right exactly. The greatest part about Batman and Superman is that they're so different. And the more Superman's a Boy Scout, the juxtaposition of Batman as this darker figure is excellent. And the juxtaposition of a Captain America to the Iron Man to the Hulk, whatever, this is what makes the world go round. This is what makes these great teams come together. Because as I've talked about before in maybe the early days of this show, all of these characters, like in an Avengers or Justice League, right? They were all individuals who survived as solo adventures. Superman had solo adventures. Batman has solo adventures. Wonder Woman has solo adventures. Green Lantern has solo adventures. The Flash has solo adventures. Aquaman has solo adventures. This is your top tier characters. And the additional characters that are brought in, like Martian Manhunter or whatever else, they're generally brought in to sort of like fill the gaps that just so happen to not exactly be filled by these A-list characters who are leading your book. And the thing about Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, or if you go over to Marvel and you're like Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, these characters all are unique. They're unique. They're occupying a unique area of the landscape. And they fit together as a group in a wonderful way where there's no real redundancies, because in some cases, they've had to figure out how to do this to make these books like work over time. And that's, we have the benefit of the fact that people have figured out how to make this shit work. But also you just have the natural benefit of, Hulk is this sort of character. He's got this sort of thing locked down. Or, it's easiest to kind of talk about it in like the DC landscape or whatever. Superman is your fundamental Boy Scout superhero character. Okay. Batman's not. He's going to beat you up real bad, and he's going to scare you, right? And then the Flash, Barry Allen, like he didn't necessarily work as good as Wally West, who later worked, because he was this guy who was honoring this legacy, and he wanted to live up to being the type of hero that Superman was and will always represent. Now, Wonder Woman's got a little bit of a different thing. She's got a mythical sort of background, and her personality maybe falls into sort of a middle ground between this super noble Superman and this brutal Batman. That helps her to find a place on the newsstand. She's not exactly stepping on Batman's toes. She's not exactly stepping on Superman's toes. She's working with mythology, and her character, her morality is a little bit different. When she shows up in the Justice League, she shows up with Batman. She has an appreciation for how brutal Batman's willing to go, but he's a little too brutal for her. And Superman, Wonder Woman's a little too brutal for him. So, this scale of morality is super important, and it's filled out by all of these wonderful mythologized characters in these universes, and that's really what we're here to talk about today. Universes or universe. Well, universes is Marvel's universe done. I declared Star Wars done with The Acolyte. The writing was on the wall with Ahsoka, which surprisingly, when I was going through all the numbers today for the Star Wars TV series and the Disney Plus TV series, I was actually surprised the incredible numbers that Ahsoka had. Ahsoka actually has like the best numbers of any Star Wars show. 14 million, like in the initial viewing bit. And I'm sure that dropped off pretty quick because the audience just did not react. And that was, for me, that was kind of the last-ditch attempt for Star Wars because they were trying to shift things a little bit into Dave Filoni's camp. Maybe Dave Filoni, who is a producer who handled a lot of the animated stuff, which is generally more well-regarded. I liked a lot of the animated stuff, even though the aesthetic of the animation really kind of sucks. But a lot of the stories are really good. Bringing him in to do Ahsoka, they had Rosario Dawson, who was really considered a great pick for Ahsoka. I thought she was a great pick. I was really surprised how stiff she was. And I don't know who was directing her to play the character like that, because the character in the animated series is excellent, and she's not stiff. That was a frustrating one for me. Similar to She-Hulk. I really like She-Hulk. I really like Ahsoka as a character. And I was baffled by a lot of the choices in that show. And I saw how little energy there really was in terms of talking about it and whatever else. And then after people saw it, and I said beforehand talking about it. And then I said, well, this is kind of a little bit make or break, and the energy, I just went, this is it. What they have coming up next is The Acolyte, and that one is really, to the fans has been feeling like a spit in the face to the fandom in a lot of weird ways. That's going to be the end. That's going to be the death knell. And it was, as we see more recently, we had Skeleton Crew, which has actually been reviewed rather favorably, and people have had a lot of nice things to say about it, similar to Andor, which nobody watched. And I love Andor. Andor was great. I can't wait to watch the second season, actually. I'm glad they wasted all this money on this show, even though nobody's watching it, for me, because I liked Rogue One too, and as like a cool little prequel to Rogue One, this is cool as well, just because I really did like Rogue One. That's the one success I give to Disney for the Star Wars franchise. It's so crazy how little success they've had with these things. Apparently, Star Wars there's conversation behind the scenes trying to sell Star Wars, and nobody wants to buy it. They spent probably too much on it in the first place, and then I'm not going to tell you that the value of Star Wars has gone up in the past decade. I promise you it has not. So I called it. when Star Wars was dead, and I was feeling like maybe it was time to call it on the Marvel Universe too. But honestly, when I looked at the numbers for Daredevil, I'm not exactly sure what to think. And I think maybe it remains to be seen, sort of like, you know, if it can build any momentum. It's getting some generally positive reviews. I'm being hard on it, but I mean, like, I don't love it. I see a lot of the seams in what they did because they had to reshoot this show. You know, they let's just say that they bring back some fan favorite characters only to get rid of them rather quickly, in some subtle ways, and then go about what I guess they were doing previously. And there's some good stuff. There's some stuff to like. But there's a lot of things about it that I don't necessarily love. I feel like if this was just thought about a little bit better, it could have been that much better if it is good, and some people seem to think it's pretty good. I'm feeling like maybe I'm being harsh on this one. I really like Daredevil. And Daredevil comics, man. Daredevil comics are excellent. I mean, they are excellent. You know, that last Daredevil, dude, the Daredevil comics make the Netflix Daredevil series look like shit. Honestly. I mean, you know, from the Frank Miller stuff, which I'm a little bit less like a fanboy on. I've read some of them. I've read them in like the wrong order. You know, sometimes that can be a thing. I read like the Elektra Born Again shit before I did the some of the mainline Daredevil stuff. But for me, like, some of my most formative comic book reading starts with Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada, Jimmy Palmiotti's Daredevil, which was excellent, and followed by wonderful thing after wonderful thing. David Mack, Bob Gale, and Phil Winslow, Brian Michael Bendis, incredible fucking run. Ed Brubaker, incredible fucking run. I haven't read all of Mark Waid's run, and some people I know don't love that run, but I really liked a lot of it that I've read. Daredevil has been a kind of marquee, like Frank Miller set the stage that Daredevil was like a showpiece. Like, Daredevil is kind of like the Vertigo universe in like there's not a universe of Vertigo. Vertigo is like a lot of different universe, but the Vertigo imprint is like the cool, adult, interesting, cool takes on fantasy and science fiction and superheroes at DC Comics, and usually not superheroes, but Daredevil kind of operated as Marvel's place where they would put those kind of vibing characters, or those kind of vibing writers. And then when Joe Quesada come in the beginning of the whole Daredevil with Joe was an editor for this little imprint, which became the Marvel Knights imprint. And the Marvel Knights imprint used to really mean something. Like, it really, it became kind of Vertigo for Marvel, but they were doing it with their own characters and making them real in meaningful ways. And there's a lot of great series that came out of the Joe Quesada Marvel Knights early run. Joe Quesada, I believe, is, you know, one of the brilliant creative people in comics. He's definitely somebody worth looking around for. But Daredevil, man, it's great. So, you know, forgive me if as somebody who's read the books that are really awesome, that so many of these things are loosely based on, that like a lot of it kind of generally makes me yawn. I like Vincent D'Onofrio. I wrote a killer song called Money Power about Vincent D'Onofrio's character killing his father in the Netflix series. I don't think you can find it right now. I'm going to be re-releasing it soon. It's really cool. I'll tell you. I'll let you know again when I put it out. But because I was that into the Netflix Daredevil thing, and especially the first season, and there's a lot of things to like about it. But I mean, Daredevil is such a great comic book. There's so many great runs. I mean, you know, easily 100 comic books that you could go read that just have a smile on your face ear to ear for a long time, you know, with very, very few misses in the whole. I mean, really none for me. There's like no misses. You know, some Daredevil miniseries that was, but the main series generally was always excellent. Really, it's excellent. So forgive me judging the Daredevil thing hard. So again, like I said, if you haven't watched it, some people seem to like it. But I'm just sort of reading tea leaves here. Okay. And, just talking, because we'll talk about Captain America 4, which is way more obviously disastrous for them in a lot of ways, and a complete like reset of the idea of like a universe that I guess some people are following still, but like who? But we'll talk about that in a second. So it was interesting to me because Daredevil was sort of unfavorably compared by a lot of geek culture websites to I keep forgetting the name. Oh, the Acolyte, right? And the independent, like, and there's different metrics. It's very hard to get fucking numbers on these things. They want to show you freaking numbers of like how many billions of minutes have been viewed for different things and stuff. And it's like, it really is hard. You start going into these numbers and you're like, the early numbers for WandaVision and Loki are like 1 million and 2 million and like really like low numbers. And then meanwhile, the numbers for Loki season 2 were like 10 million or something, or 14 million. Let me see. I'm trying to get some of these numbers. Sometimes I've been using like ChatGPT, just asking like a million different like questions, trying to get them to do a bunch of different math and stuff like that, trying to get some reasonable numbers. Which, like I said, was easy for the Captain America 4 thing, and the comparisons are very easy there and not complimentary. But when it comes to this fucking Disney Plus and their numbers, it's very weird. In general, I will say it seems that the Star Wars shows have done better than they've been like a little bit more events when they're doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi show or whatever. Like there's, close to 10 million people showing up. But similarly, and I think this is kind of a weird sign, there was close to 10 million people who showed up for Agatha All Along in the first 5 days. And we know that that wasn't a hit for them. And Daredevil Born Again came in at 7.5 million. So it's almost 2 million less than Agatha All Along? Like, that comparison's weird. When you look at it with WandaVision and some of these things, and again, like some of these numbers are a little inconsistent of like what you get, and like I had to go like look, but I was seeing where the ChatGPT kept giving me like different numbers because there were some different calculations of it and by minutes and like it's weird. But this is all signs of obfuscation, of them trying to hide the truth about what their numbers are. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like tried to say the numbers were less than they were saying at the beginning and lied and said that the numbers were smaller because they wanted to be able to raise the number when it was appropriate for other things. Because like some of these like numbers, it's like, I know this shit's been getting less popular, not more popular. And like fucking Agatha All Along had 9.3 million viewers and then just dropped off. Like the other shows that they have done don't have those kind of numbers. Granted, a lot of the shows also, I can't get numbers on them. Like, there's like not a lot of clear numbers for what some of these things are. But they say like 1.5 million households for She-Hulk from Bounding Into Comics, 1.5 million for Hawkeye, 1.8 million for Moon Knight, WandaVision 1.6 million, Falcon Winter Soldier 1.8 million, 2.5 million for the first season of Loki. Miss Marvel, though, a low at 0.78. And this is like the beginning thing. And this is supposed to be opening viewers 5 to 7 days, which is comparable to Daredevil. So, but then Daredevil, you go to 7.5 million. So that seems like, well, that's really good. But like, I can tell you that Falcon and Winter Soldier was a much bigger hit than Agatha All Along was. And so was WandaVision. And I mean, like, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, maybe. She-Hulk was like the beginning of the flop. Secret Invasion was bleh. Miss Marvel, bleh. Like, so then all of a sudden, like there's, and granted, okay, it's Daredevil, so maybe there's just like a built-in, more people are interested in it, so it gets like a big, not that I'm saying like that makes no sense. I'm just saying like these numbers seem really kind of small for these things. Like how kind of unsuccessful have all their Disney Plus things been, if those are the numbers in general? And then compared to the Star Wars numbers, which a lot of them are around 10 million, like Obi-Wan and these shows. Like I'll go back over to some of these numbers that I do have. Like Acolyte apparently had 11.1 million viewers for the opening week. Ahsoka 14 million. 10.9 million for Loki season 2, 9.3 for Agatha All Along. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi had 11.2. But then meanwhile, you get something like the Book of Boba Fett had 1.7 million households in the middle of all that Star Wars thing. So then it makes you question the whole fucking thing. And when you look at some of the Mandalorian numbers, which were supposed to be like the big show for them, those numbers don't necessarily seem huge. I know Mandalorian season 3 didn't do as well as the other seasons, but you get 5.72 million for the Mandalorian season 3 apparently. And granted, it tanked in season 3. But you can't get exactly, I mean, I tried to I'm trying to see, I was having trouble getting good numbers for, yeah, okay. So when you go like on Wikipedia, you can get that there's numbers in billions of minutes for Mandalorian season 1 and season 2. And I don't know how to break down the billions of minutes. Like, theoretically speaking, the billions of minutes could be watched by one guy. Like, how many fucking, so I don't know. That seems like probably it's in the tens of millions, like their viewers for this thing. But it seems crazy that Boba Fett would be such a drop down for Boba Fett. Back down to 1.7. So I don't trust these fucking TV numbers. I don't know about these TV numbers. I will say, and this is basing everything on Agatha All Along and Star Wars numbers, that in general, this is terrible. Star Wars is dead. It's dead. It is a dead franchise. And The Acolyte was over 10, 11.2. And granted, can we trust these numbers? I don't fucking know if we can trust these stupid fucking numbers. But 11.1 million compared to Daredevil's 7.5. And that's Star Wars is done. The Star Wars universe, like, it's done. Like, no good energy came off this thing. We weren't selling toys. People aren't excited about this. So forget what you see on social media if you're seeing any positive things there. One, there's all sorts of plants and money being put in to, like, make certain narratives go certain ways. I tell you, you merchandise, man. Merchandise. This shit did not move the needle. I'm telling you. Not at all. And I would say contributed to a continued major downward trend in Star Wars merchandise across the board. A lot of the stuff that I saw at Toy Fair was all classics, bringing back the classics, not touching any of like Star Trek. They're doing classic shit. They skipped over all the fucking Kurtzman Trek shit, and they have a shitload of deep cut Star Trek figures that are being made, which I was really excited about. I was like, all right, I'm into this shit. So, looking at 9.3 million for Agatha All Along, knowing that has gone nowhere, that is not like a thing that fucking matters in any meaningful way in the atmosphere of geek culture or selling any merchandise or any of this shit. 7.5 million, 2 million less, seems like very dangerous territory. I can't tell from these numbers really. But for me, this may be real. The fact that this isn't like a clear win and that not more people journeyed to check it out in the first place, I think says a lot. And I think the next couple weeks are going to ultimately tell with Marvel whether or not they are dead. And by dead, I mean that the universe that they are playing in is no longer a place where people want to play. This does not mean that I think Marvel is going to have zero success and zero hits hereafter. There are event films that they will be able to create by bringing back actors that they've already gotten rid of, like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, played by their classic, peeps, and crossovers that have been sort of promised to us for a while with things like the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, the introduction of the X-Men. Depending on different things, we might get like a half-decent Henry Cavill Wolverine movie. We might get a half-decent this, half-decent that. But I think the days of a sprawling narrative universe that we care about being like there for us is over. Especially because they're going to have to abandon the fucking connectivity that they have going right now. And that really brings us to this Captain America movie, which has so many fucking problems. When you look at the numbers, it's now been out for 4 weekends, and I have comparisons for it of how does this compare to the lowest rung of the first 4 weeks of movies, and it is not good. Okay, so in the first 4 weeks, and this is like adjusting for inflation, we're looking at how many butts in the seats. So this is the bottom of the barrel for Marvel Studios films. The first 4 weeks, the worst that we have to offer. And I got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the bottom 8. Okay, starts with Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World sold approximately 16.5 million tickets. So 16.5 million people saw this movie in its first month's worth of weekends, first 4 weekends. Okay. At number 2, best of the worst, 14 million for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in its first 4 weekends. Okay. So now we got one that's close to it, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which sold a little bit less tickets than Quantumania did. And Ant-Man, this is the third one of the sequel. So, this is okay, we're getting a little bit of a diminishing returns thing here going, especially with this crossover universe and all this stuff. Kang, he's going to cross over all these ways. How much do people care? All right. So Shang-Chi also a little less than 14 million. But then it drops down to a little over 12 million for the next 2. First, it's Black Widow. Just ahead of the original Marvel Universe release, The Incredible Hulk, which was arguably for the longest time their worst movie. And, some people liked it and wanted to defend it or whatever. I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I thought that movie was weak. I love the Hulk. I just thought they could have did a lot better. And that guy's got about 12 million butts in the seat for the Incredible Hulk. So starting the Marvel Universe, at the beginning of the Marvel Universe, they built from a 12 million audience, and then built from there with Iron Man and all this stuff. The only things that have fallen beneath that since are Eternals, where if you put in inflation, it drops down to 11.5 million, something like that. Captain America: Brave New World, which goes a little bit under Eternals, in its 4th week, it has held less good than Eternals did. It was actually ahead of Eternals with because I thought there was only 3 weekends. So at first I did it for 3 weekends, and Eternals was second to last. And then Eternals got ahead of Captain America: Brave New World in this past weekend frame, and that is, that's these drops are exponential. However, it's going to have to work really hard to beat the Marvels, which did really poorly. It played to less than 6 million people in its first 4 weekends. But the Marvels was a new franchise. This is essentially Captain America 4. Captain America 4 is coming in with 1 million less tickets sold than The Incredible Hulk, which was the beginning of this whole thing. For me, for all intents and purposes, you're dead. This is where you started. You've now fallen behind where you've started. This movie is essentially a sequel to Incredible Hulk. More people had seen Incredible Hulk by this time. This movie is essentially a sequel to Eternals. More people have seen Eternals by this time. And of course, this is a sequel to Captain America. And you guys know a lot more people had seen all the Captain America movies before this time. You know, inflation's a motherfucker. When you start taking these numbers that Hollywood is saying, oh, we made this many $1 million, and actually turn that into the inflated ticket sales. Like, I mean, in the past 3 years, the prices of films have gone up $2. From $10 to $12 or $12.50 or something like that. It was crazy. That's just like a few years, the inflation. So they keep rolling out these numbers that you're used to hearing, oh, $100 million. It's not what it was. It's not what it was. And then especially you take their budgets into consideration. Captain America, Brave New World was shot at least twice. Probably, and granted, there's plenty of things that they're using from this thing or that thing or whatever. Probably more than that. It was a production shit show behind the scenes. Delayed. Everything that they have been putting out. They have been having to reshoot way more than I know that they would like to and spend way more. Their budgets and the things that they say they spend, when the actual numbers come out through, tax things and stuff that because everybody has to sort of be transparent about what they're filing so they get tax write-offs and all these different things. When the actual numbers are released by the various, countries or it's always coming out in Britain, when you see the numbers filed, it's always more than they say they spent. So they're always lowering these budgets down. And it has been consistent. Now we got Snow White coming out. And there's so many of these movies that have been in this pipeline, shot and reshot. The profit margins that they're making, it's so small. Their PR machine is so good that it seems like Disney and Marvel everything's great. Like they will never admit defeat. They never admit that they did anything wrong. It's such a mistake. They've just destroyed everything that they have bought with this attitude. The attitude of gratitude, the attitude of, oh, the fans don't like Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's redesign him for you. That'll make you a lot of money. The attitude of, oh, you like Gina Carano? Canceled. That's not going to make you a lot of money. It's really it's crazy. And I know it's not all about money, but it is about a money. The money is the audience. The audience, this is how we tell you we like you. We like you. Here's my money. Take my money. Take more of my money. Make more things with my money because I like this and I want to see more things. That's how it goes. So it's not about the money, but don't think of money so badly. Think of money as this is how people are saying, I want this. I want more of this. Give me more. Give me more. So, yeah, the audience is not asking for more. I told you that the Marvel Legends line, which is the 6-inch line of action figures, I'm really devastated because when the line was healthy, they were doing lots of what they call build-a-figures. There'd be an extra big character that you could build if you bought the whole wave. And like I said, usually they would be sized larger than the main character, so it'd be something that would be more expensive if you were buying it separately. Now those characters are coming separately in their own boxes, and then everything's being packed individually, and they're doing all these retro cards because they're trying to appeal to collectors because the market is really not supporting all these action figure lines. And it was one movie line after another, the Eternals and Shang-Chi and the Miss Marvel, all these there was figures in these Marvel Legends lines, and they just tanked at retail. And they tanked the whole of the Marvel Legends line. You can find most of this shit at Ollie's. There's a ton of great action figures that you can find at Ollie's and some of these other discount stores in the Midwest, because the whole line got tanked. Even characters like Rogue or something. I had a couple friends buy me some stuff from the Ollie's because it was super discounted and they were available and they were characters I really wanted. But unfortunately, they have done such a disservice to these franchises and such a disservice to the fandom over these past 10 years now. They've become almost like, their own kryptonite in a lot of cases. And Marvel has, the classic Marvel type stuff has seemed to be immune to this on some level for a little while. But I think we may be finally starting to see a bit of the same thing that happened to Star Wars happening to Marvel. I do think Marvel's going to be able to survive this by making everything some big event, some big crossover, some big deal, whatever. And they will be able to kind of squeak on. But the material, they have gotten themselves into such a pickle. The type of weird material, like they're not gonna. I just so doubt that they're gonna have the right people writing multiversal storylines in satisfying ways. They are tough. They're tough types of stories to tell and not piss off the audience because it's very Deus Machina, where God comes down and things change and guy shows up and this so happens to be that, and just everything's kind of convenient. It's very difficult to write those stories. Those multiverse stories tend to be the least satisfying, and really it's like they're all going to be multiversal stories in some weird way or another. Look, they've already got the Fantastic Four in their own little pocket universe. Why is that? Well, it's all pocket universe. They're all going to be coming together. The multiverse, yeah. You're like, I will be blown away if they actually end up executing this stuff strongly. I think it's all going to be a lot of weak sauce sprinkled about with some probably excellent member berries here or there, some things that we will love here or there, and a lot of wish they could just get their fucking dick out of their ass and get this shit on track. But that's it. I'm not trying to be a nag. I'm just like, I believe that if you can kind of adjust your perspective and your expectations ahead of time, you can enjoy things more. And, I'm going to try to enjoy the slop. I think it's going to be slop, the cuisine equivalent of slop. A bunch of shit diced and thrown together and served to you steaming hot. And some of it will be good slop, and some of it will be disgusting slop. And I think people like you and I are going to be enthusiastic about the good slop and not enthusiastic about the disgusting slop. And other people are generally not even going to care and going to only be barely paying attention until we're talking about some of the best pieces of the slop. And I don't know how much of the slop is going to be so good, like, say, Deadpool 3, which is still maybe the least good of the 3 Deadpool movies, even though it's great, is going to be this next level thing. Especially like Spider-Man, which was one of their great things too. They got, like, I think more control over the Spider-Man thing now, and they had really great success with the previous Spider-Man movie, tying Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. The more success you have, the more people start to think about it. Overthinking shit, especially when you're a freaking uncreative Hollywood producer and not a creative person. At least I know how to, like, fucking make sure that there's some, like, checks and balances to make sure the shit doesn't get overmade, because I've done that before, and and I care about the creative end result. But people who aren't, like, thinking in those terms, all these properties are just gonna get fucking mangled in so many different ways. I'm really not looking forward to a lot of it, but I'm hoping some of it will be good. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I just thought it was just kind of crazy to me, some of the numbers on the Daredevil viewing thing. And it was a little bit more nuanced and interesting than that. And it became like something interesting to talk about when I finally looked into it. So, that's today's show. I just think it's really interesting, this whole game they've been playing, pretending like they're doing awesome when they're not doing so awesome. And like so many people defending them who clearly aren't watching these shows. I mean, it's like, dude, like, if you're a fucking feminist like me and you love She-Hulk because, like, she's a fucking awesome, one of the best characters in the Marvel Universe and you saw that show, you were just like, fuck this shit. Fuck these bitches who didn't respect like the art form that we love enough to like go read some She-Hulk comic books and see what Jennifer Walters was like, because she's a great character. And like you ruined this shit. Just like injecting yourself into it. Man, I hate this shit. Anyway, all right. I moved my music show is still on hiatus. All Your Favorite Bands Suck, but there's a ton of episodes that you can find, like 50 plus episodes of some of my favorite bands. It's available wherever podcasts are available, except for Spotify, because they're the ones who shot us down. So I'm eventually going to bring the show back in like a month or two. But for now, I moved my Friday show, Everything They Don't Want You to Know, to Mondays. And every Monday, I'm talking about some crazy shit, man. I've got a crazy shit bug up my ass that I'm like really thinking about maybe talking about soon. Even though I'm like, fuck, the moment I talk about this, everyone's going to be like, he's crazy. Like, it's just like, but whatever. You know, people are going to think I'm fucking crazy and aren't going to listen to actually what I have to say. So I can explain to them how these things can be true. How a lot of things can be true at once. You know, whatever. You know, that's the thing. I'm just trying to be authentic now. I'm like done like hiding this, like the stuff that I've come to understand. You know, what I've come to understand is what I've come to understand. If you don't want to understand it, or you don't want to think that it's true, whatever, that's cool. I'm not like pushing on you. I love you. I care about you. You know, but these things are information, teaching, stuff that is hidden, is secluded. You know, the skull and bones of the Illuminati and the Freemasons. They're teaching these people something. And I know what it is. Well, it's not just one thing. It's a lot of things. A lot of things. I mean, some of the things that I talk about on the show aren't necessarily specifically something that's like, you know, they're more like things that some of these people within these secret groups are doing or are helping to have done. So anyway, if you're into that kind of stuff, conspiracy theories, as they like to say, even though conspiracy theories are like batting 1,000 right now, get on board Mondays. Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Our producer, Gentry, Gentry Thomas, he does a lot of podcasts on the Podcast Playground. He loves Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Whenever I send him a show, he goes, "I love this show, man." So and I just that just makes me happy because, like, you know, within our group, you know, that was something that like I introduced at a certain period of time, and I was like, I don't know if you mind, Gentry. I know that like I wasn't recommended as this esoteric wisdom guy, but I've done a lot of study of this. I have a lot to say about it, and I'd really love to start a conversation, start talking about these things. And you know, Gentry's just been totally supportive and cool. And I haven't checked out our numbers, but you know, when we started off pretty good. I was really pleasantly surprised. So I'm excited to actually like dig into the behind the scenes and get my metadata soon for some of these shows, because I try to like dig in like every 6 months or something, so I don't focus too much on numbers, because who gives a shit? You know, whoever you are who are listening, I love you guys. I really love you. I really appreciate you listening to the shows. And you know, and we're like, you know, at like 1 million downloads a month for all my podcasts or whatever, and you know, making money and you know, getting advertisers and things like that. So it's all because of you, all because of you guys listening. Thank you for being a friend in this regard. I feel like I have like a whole bunch of friends that I haven't met yet. I'm hoping June 14th and at some of these other shows going into you know, later in the year and next year, that I'm going to get to meet a lot of you guys who have been listening to the show, and some people have been writing me letters and stuff. I so appreciate you, so appreciate the love. I'm on social media and all that shit. You know, just go type in Jesse Blaze or COOLEST GEEK ALIVE. You'll find this stuff. My band DILF USA, I do the theme songs for a lot of the things. You know, I write the music for DILF USA. Well, with DILF USA, they help me actually execute all the music and stuff, but I write the melodies and the lyrics for the stuff that I do. And you know, the theme song for COOLEST GEEK ALIVE is a DILF USA original. If you want to support DILF USA, go to our YouTube channel, find some of our videos, share them. They're really funny, they're really fun. I hope you guys like them. Anyway, I guess that's all I got for you today. Nothing else important to share. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about on Friday. I've got some cool shows. I mean, on Saturdays, COOLEST GEEK ALIVE. Usually I do a review episode for those of you who don't listen a lot. It's a short one, just talking about a movie I love or a TV show that I love. I got a couple good options, so I haven't decided which one, but tune in on Saturday and you will find out what I have chosen. Anyway, I love you guys. See you next time on another fucking awesome episode of the COOLEST GEEK ALIVE. Love you. You've been listening to COOLEST GEEK ALIVE with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? I played that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. Play that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living your shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top of the awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go.
It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!